Hello, everyone, and welcome to the HarnessRacing.com live preview show coming to you from the 2025 United States Trotting Association's annual meeting from Columbus, Ohio. I'm your host, Wendy Ross. This weekend, we welcome in 59 directors representing our 13 districts from across the U.S. These meetings are conducted each year to set rules, discuss primary issues that are going on within our industry and that affect our upwards of 20,000 plus members. Our goal is to help maintain and ensure the betterment of the industry. We have 5 committees that are meeting this weekend, starting with communications and marketing, regulatory, finance, rules, and racing. Everything you need to know about harness racing gets discussed right here in Columbus, Ohio this weekend. We are coming to you with a 2-part show this weekend, of course, tonight, and then we'll be back with you tomorrow at 4 p.m. with more guests. Tonight, our guests include COO T.C. Lane, our Vice Chairperson Mark Lowy, Executive Vice President Mike Tanner, and Ohio Director and the Director of Racing from Scioto Downs, Jason Roth. But before we get kicking off any more of our show tonight, let's take a look at some of those 2024 highlights. Ross for US Trotting here. Wendy Ross back with you from Columbus, Ohio. It's the HarnessRacing.com live preview show from the 2025 United States Trotting Association's annual meeting. Now joined in by this guy. If you know harness racing, you know this gentleman, COO T.C. Lane. TC, the night's rolling right along. You're fresh out of that registration committee.
Yeah, thank you, Wendy. It was quite eventful. It was an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes of lively discussion, which is consistent with the way that the board of directors operate throughout the weekend. So if it's anything like if today's anything like what we're going to be seeing in the future, it's going to be something special.
And that's one thing when all of our 59 directors come representing our 13 districts from across the U.S. We want them here. We want discussion, right? That's what it's about, to determine how things are going to go throughout the industry for the year.
Absolutely. It's a great opportunity for those 59 directors and as well as the staff. Because this is a one-time-a-year discussion, and it's lively, like I said, and I think that if we look at it from the standpoint of all the topics and everything else that we have to discuss, it kind of charts the path for where the association needs to be in the next 51 weeks out of the year before we reassemble.
You know what I thought was really cool, adding up the numbers and we're upwards of 20,000 members. We have just continued to grow and grow, and that says so much for the industry.
It does, but it's not just a USTA issue. If you look at the efforts on behalf of the state racing commissions and the Horsemen's Association, so to speak, and the breed development funds, who they create an opportunity for the industry, the breeders to market their products, and with the amount of owners that we have and the opportunities. So fortunately, we're reactive to that. So we can't take complete credit. Because it's an industry-wide approach in terms of the success and with these increases. And, in the last 5, 6, 7 years, we've gone from what appeared to be kind of a downward. And so I can greatly say that we've gone the other way. So
You know, when we talk about you just a little bit, you represent the USTA from the racing commissioners to the Organization of Racing Investigators. And this is why I say when we're on the road and people come up and they say, Wendy, they said, well, I have a question about this, I have a question about that. I said, you know what, you better call TC. And that's pretty true to form, right?
Well, fortunately it is, unfortunately it is as well. But you know, as I'm approaching now my 24th year, I'm in the 24th year now, you know, as they say in the horse business, I've cleaned a lot of stalls, you know, so I've had so many opportunities to meet a lot of people. I know the workings of the association as well as the industry. You know, from a driver trainer standpoint, I'm a licensed racing official, so I've met a lot of people along the way, which that really equates to my ability to be able to facilitate and to try to help the 20,000 members. And at the end of the day, that's what we're here for.
And you know, there's so many things that have to keep everything going in motion behind the scenes, so many moving parts.
Yeah.
Now, when we talk about you're an Ohio native, raised in harness racing, now you graduated from the Ohio State, you're a Buckeye, right, with an agricultural economics degree. You said now joined the USTA 24 plus years ago. You've worn many hats here, TC. Yeah. Did that kid graduate in college think that he'd be sitting here handling all of these issues here today? No,
but, under no stretch. But you know, I think where I did realize early on where I wanted to be is in harness racing. And harness racing it's just such a part of all of us. And you know, it started as a young child, and it's really progressed into this. And at the end of the day, by being able to be in the position I am, I feel blessed to be able to now, within those members, the folks that I've looked up to, I'm able to provide a level of service to those individuals that I've looked up to forever. So it makes our job very, very easy to do.
Now, another thing to mention about you that everyone at home needs to know, TC, you might see him running the racing official school, or hey, you might see him being a judge at the local fair. But here's my question. Somewhere in between all that harness racing USTA, you got to find time to be a dad too.
Yeah, it's a balance. You know, as my family, just like anybody else, it's in the racing world. You know, our horsemen, we've all been in that capacity. You have to sacrifice a lot in order to do things and to, you know, to be present. You know, a lot of late night paddocks and that kind of stuff. So I don't consider anything that I do out of the ordinary from our fellow horsemen. You know, but all of our kids in the horse racing business, they have to realize that dad and mom have a job to do. I'm just very fortunate that my family realizes that that's an important part of what we do, so I'm thankful for that.
Well, when we talk about what you do as COO, what exactly is your role?
Well, it changes daily, Wendy, and that's the beauty of the role, and everything under the roof, so to speak. I make sure the trains show up on time. From a communication standpoint, I get to work with all of you. From a breed registry standpoint, as the registrar, you know, we just finished up the registration meeting, so we're looking at genome sequences to the list of mares bred to ICSI and different reproduction things, which takes that back to information and research who provide all the pedigree work for all the major sales. And that's in addition to handling a member services department and overseeing that's operating at a percentage of about a 94% call rate when we get 4,000 to 5,000 individuals that call into our call center every month.
And speaking of member services, I'm telling you what, now dealing with me, I've gotten into the quarter horse world a little bit, but let me tell you, I would put this U.S. Trotting, the member service staff, those ladies and everyone that works there up against any breed registry in the world.
Well, I would have to agree.
Yes.
Not just because I'd like to think a part of that statement, but you know, where we pride ourselves, and it goes back to taking time for the members. And if you're into let's say if you contact another company, whether it be a credit card company, you know, you may be on hold, you have questions, good luck on trying to find somebody. You know, our member services department, we stand ready, and to pick up a phone, those 20,000 members know that they have a lifeline. It's almost like a liaison. It's a family kind of operation, so it really makes it a good situation for our members, and that's something that other associations can't take as much pride in. So.
And you know, we talk about all the growth over the years from all of the things that have progressed online. Let's talk about the outrighting clinics, the officiating programs, gene growth therapy, as you said, and even how coming out of the registration, how things just continue to grow. You have to be pride. You have to take a lot of pride of having a hand in that, and of course, such a big part of for the industry.
Well, and I'll circle back on how that gets done. And you have to understand that from a board of directors standpoint, a lot of the ideas come from this type of an assembly. My job is to take those ideas and make them come to life.
Right.
So a lot of the things that we do see, I would love to take credit for them, but they're really as a result of a lot of, or accumulation of a lot of individuals that make up those 59, 60 directors. So it's a team effort. You know, I tell our staff all the time, I do very little, we do a lot. And I think that really holds true.
Let's talk annual meetings, what we're doing here in Columbus every second weekend here in March each year. What is your role in putting together these annual meetings, and really what is the ultimate, what we want to see come out of them each year?
Well, the scope of the meetings have changed in the 20 plus years now that I've been here, where we're able to focus on a lot of high level type discussions, because what we actually do is throughout the year, we have an inordinate amount of planning sessions and committee meetings that lead up to this. So we do not make discussions an annual process. We make that a weekly and a monthly process. So it really allows us to do less discussions from an execution and a perfection standpoint. We talk a lot of ideas here. Then later on, then we take those ideas, establish a committee to reevaluate, and then when you say, how do you get all these things done? Well, that's how that starts. So what I do then is, that's when I assemble all of you here and say, we're going to get this task done.
We're going to talk about it, right?
We're going to talk about it, yeah.
Now, talking about it for the agenda for 2025, I mean, of course, it's Friday night. You've already been through registration committee, but what are some of the big on the agenda this year?
Well, it's a unique agenda for this year. It's heavy on regulatory focus, and I think it's about I consider this a very pivotal meeting for our association and for the industry. You know, like I mentioned, you know, as a breed registry, we're looking at a lot of the repro and a lot of the items that are discussed at an international level, so we want to be in line with them. But then tomorrow we're going to go into what type of image that we want to portray. So there's a communication element, sort of like today, with this program, and how we're reaching the audiences and what's the best way to do that. And then later on, we're going to discuss 42 rule change proposals, which represent a substantial amount of integrity related. So you'll see that theme throughout.
Well, and that's what I want to ask. When we leave here this weekend, that's kind of how the rules, everything gets implemented into the industry from the decisions made here this weekend.
That's correct. Upon adoption, after those rule change proposals have been solicited to 13 different districts around the country, which begin in October, finalized here at the end of January, then once the board of directors determine which pass or fail, if they do pass, those particular rules go into place on May 1. So our role at that point is to take those adopted rules, take those to the Association of Racing Commissioners International, and then work to get that part of a model rule, which then that becomes a uniform standard throughout the industry. So that's kind of it's a long-winded process.
Now, TC, before we let you go, if you could tell our members watching, what are the benefits that coming out of these meetings, what are the benefits from them throughout the year?
Well, I think one of the take-homes for that, and I've quoted it, or I've made reference to it in a previous Hoofbeat submission that I had, and I think a lot of our members, they don't look at the amount of participation that takes place on behalf of the directors, and it really is substantial. They're always a phone call away. They're always an email away. And one of the things that I encourage is that I want our members to engage. I want them to make it to their district meeting. You know, the meeting we have here in Columbus, it's their meeting. It's our meeting. Mm-hmm. I'm still a USTA member. It's our meeting. So I want to make sure that everybody knows that this is a meeting for them.
Yes, and we are here to help them and, of course, make our industry better. But TC, thank you so much for stopping by. I hear a party, a little bit of a get-together going on. I'm sure you're anxious to get back to that. But thank you so much for your time. I know you're going to have a busy time the rest of the weekend.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
We'll be right back. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Vice Chairperson Mark Lowy as we talk.
Driver Yannick Gingras. Yannick, you did it.
Yeah, finally. What a machine. You know, he's a great horse, and you know, it comes with a lot of pressure with driving a horse like that. You know, it's been a year and 1 week, I guess, since the first time I baby raced him. And that day I baby raced him, I knew he was a special horse, and I've been looking forward to August 3rd ever since that day.
We caught up last year in the Breeders' Crown, of course, when he won that. And like you said, I think you knew that if this was going to be your day, it was going to happen with him. It
really was. You know, today, yesterday, of course you're nervous. You know, if you're not nervous today like today, you're probably doing the wrong business. You know, I was nervous, I'm not going to lie. but I also knew he was my best chance. The best chance I've ever had. He's just so versatile. He can do whatever you want. He's won most of his races on the front today. He was second over. He couldn't care less. No, I called on him halfway on the stretch. He trotted home. He's just an incredible racehorse, and I'm just the lucky guy that got to drive him.
Scoring down, of course, all the theatrics, the skies just let loose. You leave the gate, you get away fifth there, and of course, he did get towed along. But down the stretch, it turned into a horse race.
It sure did, but he's just a great horse. He loves to pass horses, and I'm just so proud of him.
Congratulations. One thing that brought a tear to my eye, your kids have grown up in this Hamiltonian winner circle, right, for the Oaks and all the races you've won, but they're grown now. Your son Jaden came through. He had a tear in his eye. They know what this meant for you.
They sure do. And I'm proud of who they become too, because they all they're teenagers, and he's a man now, and then so proud of who they are, and they know what it means to me, and I know what it mees to them.
Well, you saw that, how proud they are of you.
Yeah, maybe today I'm glad for that. I would just want to put one more thing, that Miguel, the caretaker of this horse, he's just an amazing man. He lives, breathes, and this horse, and the work he's put in day in and day out. It's about him. That guy did a great job.
And all the great horses you get to drive, those caretakers are so important.
Absolutely, all the time.
Yannick, congratulations.
Thank you.
You're driving the 2. Welcome back to the HarnessRacing.com live preview show, coming to you from the 2025 United States Trotting Association annual meeting from Columbus, Ohio. Wendy Ross back with you, joined by our Vice Chairperson, Mark Lowy. Mark, thank you so much for sitting down with us. I know you're a busy guy. Always nice to see you here in Columbus.
Oh, glad to be here, Wendy. Glad to be with you.
Now, Mark, you're the vice. You've had many hats throughout the industry, but right now, you said you were going to dabble in a little bit of retirement a couple years ago, but you knew that didn't suit you. So now you're the Vice President of Customer Relations at Hanover Shoe Farms. You've been involved, I think, just in every area of the sport. Let's go back as a kid, as a fan, to being a caretaker and a second trainer for the great Bill Popfinger.
I was very fortunate growing up in New York City when New York was the hot spot for harness racing, and fortunate to work for Bill Popfinger. And strange as it may seem, my first year working for Bill as a groom, I was able to groom a Little Brown Jug winner.
Well, there's nothing better than that, right?
It was all downhill from there.
And of course, growing up there in New York, you said Roosevelt Raceway. Back in the heyday, those were the great times.
Absolutely. Roosevelt was a very special place. Sad to see it close when it did. A lot of great racing, great horses. Every good horse wanted to be at Roosevelt at that time.
Now, you graduated from St. John's University, but you said, you know what, I love harness racing so much, you took on a little bit, you were a driver trainer as yourself, became a driver and trainer a little bit there, but all the way to evolving your career to the construction of Dayton Raceway there in Ohio just a few years ago. What has your career meant to you?
I've been very fortunate. Harness racing has been my life, and I've been fortunate to be successful in some of those jobs I've taken on. I do want to give out a shout out to number 6 rated St. John's right now.
Let's go.
But anyway, no, I've been very fortunate. The harness racing industry has been so good to me, and I'm happy that I've been able to give something back to the industry as well.
Well, when I talk about giving back, and that's another thing, you've wanted to be involved in the USTA, and you want to be involved. You want to be involved for the betterment of the sport, for the industry that you love so much.
Absolutely. I've been a director now, I think, for 3 different districts. But if you're going to get involved, you got to get involved, both hands, both feet, and really try to do something that's beneficial for the industry.
Now, when we talk about something that's been in the works here for a couple years, you've been talking about graded stakes, right? Of course, they have it in the thoroughbreds, and you've wanted to bring it here in harness racing. So that's why I wanted to bring you on tonight. I wanted to talk about the graded stakes program, right? In 2023, the committee was created, and now it consists of 11 members. What was the thoughts and the passions that went into the formation of it?
Well, actually, it's interesting because it really was at the request of the breeders in the industry and some of the owners and some of the consigners and horse owners. And it was something that, President Williams was in favor of as well, that, this is something that we think is beneficial for the industry. It will give people a better understanding of who the great horses are, what are the important races, and what we can do to, to promote the industry in a way that the thoroughbred industry has had it for over 40 years. And when people talk about a graded race, people's ears perk up. They know that it must be something special. And there was no reason why we couldn't do something similar. We have great horses and great races. Let's find a way maybe to promote them more to the average customer besides our own breeders and sales companies and owners.
Now, when we talk about the owners and the breeders, what exactly, you said it's almost like the prestige of knowing the graded stakes, but what exactly does it mean as an owner or a breeder, knowing that your foal or your colt, your yearling is eligible for these graded stakes?
Well, it's the eligibility obviously is important, and then the opportunity to win a graded race. I mean, we had, the industry had last year an exceptional 2-year-old trotter in Maryland, and we say he won the Houghton, he won the Mohawk Million, he won the Breeze. But now when you look at a pedigree page in the sales catalog, it says he won the Grade 1 Houghton, the Grade 1 Mohawk Million, the Grade 1. He won 4 Grade 1 races. If you go into the thoroughbred industry and you say a 2-year-old won 4 Grade 1 industry, they'd all be clamoring to stand him at stud. So I think it's going to be beneficial for people who are looking for that stallion, looking for that special brood mare, to say this is a Grade 1 winner. I mean, there are a lot of good races, but Grade 1 is that step above the best.
Now, when we talk about Grade 1 compared to Grade 2 or 3, you think it might be common sense, but how are they determined? And kind of break that down for us a little bit.
Well, you know, the first year that we did this, which is effective basically in 2025, we had to have a starting point, a ground zero. And the easiest way to start was to look at purses of most of the races and make a determination based on purses as to what a 1, 2, and 3 was. Once we establish those baselines, then we look at the quality of the fields, and it improves the quality of that race. And then we also are going to look at field size. You know, a race that has 8, 9, 10 horses with multiple graded winners in the race is going to probably elevate that race to more of a Grade 1 than a 2 or a 3.
One question I had, now say you start out as a Grade 2, but you kind of get on a little bit of a roll, or you know, you kind of catch some stride there late in the season. Can you go up to a Grade 1, or do you kind of got to, if you're paid into Grade 1, you're Grade 1, or can you go from Grade 1 to 2 and vice versa? Can you rotate?
Every year, the committee will meet at the end of the year and review every race again.
Okay.
So it's not as static, it's a constant fluid situation where there will be changes, and the changes can be positive and sometimes they can be negative.
Now, when we talk about graded stakes, is there any difference for the colts and fillies, or the mares and then the older horses? Is there any difference between them?
So when we started looking at the purse thresholds for the breeds, it was obvious that the fillies and mares did not have the opportunity to race for the same amount of money as the horses and geldings. So we did set up 2 unique thresholds. So the mares, to be considered racing in a Grade 1 race, would be a race that has a purse of $250,000 or more.
Okay.
On the horses and geldings, the Grade 1 baseline is a race with a purse of $350,000 or more. So there's a unique distinction between the 2.
What do you think the ultimate goal of this program for the industry is?
I think the ultimate goal is that we're going to be able to promote our industry better to new owners, breeders, sales companies look at it as a better way to promote their sales. And also, I think more importantly, the casual fan who is betting a thoroughbred race and or is attracted to those graded races on the thoroughbred side, and they're watching, they hear the Grade 1 Hamiltonian's coming up. Now, they may have heard of the Hamiltonian, but when they hear Grade 1, they said, this might be a little special, this race, and maybe I should look into making a couple wagers on this. So it could potentially help, I think, on the wagering side as well.
Now, when do we start seeing the graded stakes program go into effect?
So the grades have been announced for 2025, and through the work of the committee and with the USTA and Standard Canada's support, you will see in this year's pedigrees at the sales companies graded stakes going back from 2021 to 2024 on the horses that are in the pedigrees. And in terms of for 2025, the Meadows can promote their race as the Grade 1 Adios. The Meadowlands can obviously say they have the Grade 1 Meadowlands Pace and the Grade 1 Hamiltonian. So it is a marketing tool that's available to the racetracks this year in 2025, and in all the pedigrees at the major sales, you'll see them in the 2025 sales catalogs.
And Mark, one more question before we let you go. As with anything, it takes time, right? It's not going to probably be perfect right out of the gate, but I think it's a wonderful addition for our sport.
You know, I hope it stirs controversy. At least then people are talking about it and they're interested in it. And I think that, you know, personally, I think our committee did a very good job. They worked. It took us about 18 months to make it happen. And yes, there are going to be tweaks to it, but I think it's a good starting point, and if nothing else, create conversation and bring more awareness to our major races.
Mark, thank you so much for taking time, stopping by with us here tonight. We know you're on quite a few committees. You got a lot going on here when you make this 3-day stop in Columbus, Ohio, but thank you. Enjoy the rest of your evening. We're going to be right back, though, with you with Executive Vice President Nielsen Leandro, a horse that you've never driven. But let's talk about his sire, Timoko, a horse that you've got a lot of history with, that's got a lot of great memories for you.
Yeah, a horse that we raced here one time, was second in international one time. So yeah, Timoko was a great horse. He was a super war horse. You know, he was always doing good. He winning 2 times the Elite Cup and everything. So yeah, driving a son of him is also a pleasure because many of his sons, they are a little bit familiar to him.
Timoko, what a great horse he was. Now, any characteristics that you've seen in a horse like him, you said he's tough, a war horse. Have we seen that trickling down into the offspring?
A little bit of it, yes. A little bit of it. He haven't got anyone that's really like him yet, but they have like the speed, the gait speed, and the good, nice trotting. So yeah, he's bringing that on, but they're not so strong, but they're really fast horses.
Now, talking about this 5th race, the Sun, the Ideal Sen, the Render, a horse you haven't got, but you got the call to drive. What made you decide to come over here and take a shot for this $1 million today?
Yeah, because of the trainer. He's a friend of mine, and he called me, you want to go over to the States to drive? And I said, yeah, it would be a pleasure, because he's a really nice friend of mine. And yeah, we are enjoying here now for 2 days. So yeah, it's for the pleasure mostly.
Now, talking about the track surfaces over there in Europe, comparing to the ones over here, let's just talk about Yonkers here today. Now, the turns are made for trotters over there. Some horses don't even wear knee boots, some no boots at all. Coming over here now, going from those type of turns, these European horses coming here, racing on this half at Yonkers, anything you think that'll be a little tricky for them?
No, these horses that come here, they are so good horses. They are adapting so good. I don't think there will be any problems with that way, because they're natural born trotters and they're used to go, on good tracks, but this is also a good track, so I don't think it will be any problem, no.
The Yonkers trot here today going for 1.25 miles, but nothing. You guys race for a lot further distances over there in Europe, so these horses, no problem. But anything you think the American horses might have over those European horses being here from the U.S.?
No, I think they're all quite the same. I think from the European side there is maybe, like Hail Mary. It's the most interesting. Yeah, he's the most interesting today to look up for. Otherwise, I think it's a big advantage for the American horses.
Always fun having you here in the U.S., and we wish you the best of luck today, and thank you for a little bit of your time.
Thank you, Wendy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the HarnessRacing.com live preview show. I'm your host, Wendy Ross, coming to you from the 2025 United States Trotting Association annual meeting here in Columbus, Ohio. Now, when you talk about USTA and Columbus, Ohio, you got to know this gentleman sitting next to me, and that big smile, of course, our Executive Vice President, Mike Tanner. Mike, I know you're busy, right? Now, I know TC is busy, and Mark, everyone's busy, right? But you are always busy for these annual meetings.
Yeah, it's fun, though. It really is. It's good to have everybody in town. There's a lot to do. The staff works really hard in the run-up to it. I know TC spoke to that a little bit earlier, but this is where everything gets done, and it's so good to see everybody again.
Now, Mike, I want to let everyone at home watching know a little bit about you. Some fun facts that some people might not know. Now, here's the thing: you're a Tar Heel and a Buckeye.
Yeah.
You had a dream of being a psychology major, right? But somehow you're an avid racing fan, though, right? That's one thing we need to know about you. So somehow that love of racing got in the way. And hey, since 1992, you've been involved in racing, and you just never look back.
Yeah, I was in graduate school in Bowling Green, Ohio, intending to be a clinical psychologist. I had just written my master's thesis. I was seeing clients under supervision, and Detroit Race Course offered me their publicity director's position. I had been doing some part-time work for them. And I took it on a 1-year basis, and at the 1-year mark, I called the school back and said, I'm not coming back. Then I called my parents and told them I wasn't coming back. But no, I've been very lucky. I mean, I've loved racing since I was a little kid, and somehow got to make it my career.
Now, somehow, when we just brief mention about your parents, I know that even though they are very supportive of you, so they probably said, Mike, if you think it's a good idea, just go ahead and pursue it, right?
My dad did,
Yep.
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
My father was just, it's in his system and he needs to get out of it. And he was wonderfully supportive. My mom was too, but she was more worried.
Now let's talk about, you joined the USTA in 2008 after being out there at Harris Chester. Since then, you've been a Breakthrough Award winner, a Hervey Award winner, a Harness Horseman's International Person of the Year back in 2015, all while at the USTA. You have to be proud of all these recognitions.
It's nice. It's always nice when you get recognized by your peers, and this is such a wonderful industry. Certainly nothing that I ever expected, but I'm very grateful.
And we're so grateful to have you. Now, you sit on the American Horse Council, and you're involved in the Arizona Racetrack Program. In your role, why do you think it's so important for you to be involved in so many of these things?
Oh, I think racing is such a multifaceted industry, and that it's one of those things where as much as we can all be pulling together, we should be, and that means kind of getting out of your comfort zone and getting out beyond the office walls in Columbus.
So you're having your hat in there and many different things, and that's the thing. You could be seen, you don't know, you're never just in Columbus, right? You could be just about everywhere throughout the racing year.
It's been pretty crazy. I mean, it's sometimes it gets a little tiring, but we've gotten very involved over the past 6 or 7 years in opposing the Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Act, and so I've taken over 600 meetings, probably about half of them in person, half of them virtual on Capitol Hill. That's not the only thing that we lobby on. We've been actively working to try to get the HIRE Act passed. That would free up some H-2B visas, make it easier for trainers to staff their stables. And we've also been supportive of the SAFE Act, which would kind of shut down the slaughter pipeline. So it's a little bit of everything.
Now, when we talk about that executive vice president role here, you know, it's kind of like what goes on in your daily role and your daily position is, like you said, we are fighting so many things on such a high level that maybe our members aren't completely aware of. So it's nice to know and understand what we are doing sometimes, especially on the legislative level.
The job has definitely changed since I started at the end of '08. It's more outward facing now than it was before. If you take a look at the USTA rulebook, it defines what the duties are. The president has all the power, but he can designate it to the executive vice president, and traditionally, at least in terms of the business operations, that's what has happened. But I don't think the bylaws contemplated necessarily how much we would be doing politically, both in Washington and in state capitals and things like that. So the role has changed over time. I spend a lot of time out of the office. I am lucky that T.C. Lane is the chief operating officer. He oversees a lot of the daily functioning right now, keeps me looped in, but it's a team effort.
Well, it definitely is a team effort, and you say to keep you looped in. And I made a joke, and when I'm on the road and anyone says, Wendy, I have a question about this, who do I call about this, who do I call? I said, just call TC, he'll handle it for you, right? You might have that same thing.
He and I, other than my wife, I talk to TC more than any other person on this earth. Yeah. So, yeah.
Now, when we talk about the meetings here each year, what exactly is your role?
Basically to be a resource for the directors, to liaison with them and find out what their concerns are, do a lot of listening more than anything else, and to be able to answer any questions that they might have regarding our plans, our budgets, things like that.
Now, I talked to earlier with President Williams, but here's the thing. The USTA is sometimes thought of as the governing body throughout our sport, in our industry. What do you think when that's said? Do you feel that's accurate?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I think it's an organizing body. I mean, we serve as the breed registry, we promulgate rules, we license drivers and trainers and things like that, basically to vouch for their credentials. But we are superseded by state racing commissions anywhere there is parimutuel racing. So while we can come up with USTA rules, it's up to the states to adopt them or not, and the states are the ones who really make the decisions about who participates in racing and who does not.
Now, when we talk about the USTA, and let's talk about its directors, our 59 directors here, and we have the 13 districts, kind of give us a little bit of background, like how the directors are chosen, how the 13 districts are determined.
So the districts are mapped out in the bylaws, and they were organized initially in the states all the way back to 1939 when we were established, and over time it's been adjusted, but organized geographically. Directors, a certain number of directors per district are prescribed, and they run in democratic elections. The highest vote getter wins, and they serve 3-year terms. So it's very similar to what you see in the United States of America. You could consider directors really to be akin to congressmen or state senators or something of that nature.
Now, when someone takes on a director position, what exactly does that mean for them?
Well, it again defined in the rule book rather narrowly, because it says, well, they need to keep informed and connect with their with their colleagues, excuse me. They also administer, proctor, I should say, driver and trainer tests. There are eyes and ears. And then they come to Columbus and they vote on rule change proposals.
Now, when we talk about the information, where you could find this information, if you just write on ustrotting.com, it has all of the directors' information and the districts. So if you need to know what district you're in, who's your directors, or hey, maybe you want to become a director, right? That's where you find out.
I would hope so, yeah. So what they need to do is when you go to the USTA home page, on the left-hand side near the top, there is a tab that says USTA. Hover your mouse, your cursor over that. There'll be a drop-down menu. You'll see directors. You'll see district meetings. And it also identifies when the directors' terms are up. So we have really made a concerted effort in the past 2 or 3 years to try to promote these elections and get more participation, because in this day and age, I understand how busy people are, but we are always looking for people who want to be part of us.
Now, when we talk about the districts and the directors, each district holds their own meetings, right, throughout their own district meetings, and then their results are submitted, and then of course they're combined to see what gets voted on here at the annual meeting each year.
Yeah. Those votes aren't binding, but they serve as a really excellent guide to what the members expect and what they would like to see passed, and I think the directors are very cognizant of that. I think this year there were 41 rule change and bylaw submissions, and that is encouraging. I think it shows that people care about the sport and want to try to mold it to make it better.
Mike, before we let you go, we did welcome in 2 new directors, of course, Stacy Chiodo from New Jersey, and Joe Morris is representing us as well. So we welcome in 2 new directors. Just to say, if we talk about who wants to become a director, we do welcome in 2 new ones.
I'm excited about that too. Now, I knew Stacy a little bit when she was racing at Harrah's Chester back during my time there, and she's an excellent representative who comes in with a lot of good ideas. Joe Morris and I go back to when I was in the thoroughbred side of the industry back in the 90s. And he's a guy that was really raised in harness racing culture, and to have someone of his caliber and his talents on our board, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and I think we have so many great directors, but please, if you want to, or you're interested, please visit ustrotting.com. Mike, thank you so much for being with us and taking time here tonight. We're going to let you get back to the reception where everybody seems to be having a great time, but we'll be right back with the Ohio director and the director of racing at Scioto Downs.
Memorable horse that you were able to oversee for Brittany.
Arts Place. I bonded with him as a foal for some reason. I can't tell you why. Just his personality. He was a loner. You know, he was the leader of the pack, but only by example. They followed him everywhere. If he walked in the shed to eat, they all moved out of the way. Wasn't a mean horse, but I just fell in love with him from the very beginning. You know, and we had some really good times together.
It's like Art's Place. He's had 60 plus foals that have won $1 million on the bottom. Art's Place has been the best broodmare sire in the history of the sport, like Albatross was before him. And I believe Captain will be in that realm in the next decade or 2.
When you see a lot of these new breeding farms coming in the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years, what do you think, though, always put Brittany ahead and has made him just them the top of the game?
Well, and there's an element of luck in everything we do in life. My philosophy is knowing what not to buy as opposed to what to buy. So you have to study your pedigrees, you have to be a little lucky, and sometimes you have to have deep pockets.
If you have to look back over the success you've had with Brittany, what was the one horse that stood out the most to you in your heart?
Well, I'll go back to Leah Almhurst. I was there by myself and I bought her with one bid, and she turned out to be a phenomenal mare and only had 2 daughters before she passed.
When we talk about Brittany Farms, we're not really closing down Brittany Farms. The land, the farm itself, that operation is closing. But George, and you're going to take a step back and you're retiring. Your wife Leah's still going to be involved though, right? It's not like we're closing down. We're just changing. George is still involved heavily just through other people.
Well, yeah, we sold the farm or the yearling farm to Marvin Katz and our partner. And George has, I believe, 22 mares in partnership with Marvin. And he has 10 mares of his own. And the agreement was that he could have his yearlings raised at that farm. So, and the same crew is going to be there. Patty and Dale are going to be there. Several of the grooms are still going to be there. So that'll be just what it was, a yearling farm.
Everyone, welcome back as we're joined with our last guest on our evening as it's night one of the harnessracing.com live preview show coming to you from the 2025 United States Trotting Association annual meeting here in Columbus, Ohio. Joining me is this gentleman to my left, Jason Roth. Thank you so much, Jason, for stopping by here. Now, we know you've been busy here in Ohio, but it's always good to see you here for the annual meeting.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Now, here's the thing, Jason. You grew up in harness racing, right? You have so many things that you've been involved in over the years. Now, you're the director of racing at Scioto Downs, the vice chair on the parimutuel committee, and you also are on the communications marketing committee, the regulatory, and the investigative committee. Holy moly, that's a lot of hats.
It's, we show up to these meetings every year, and you try to give some input, and hopefully it moves things forward in the right direction and go from there.
Now, you being the director of racing at a racetrack, I think that's why you have to have your hand involved in every committee, just because you're involved in so much, from marketing the sport, of course, the racing aspect of it, the regulatory, the investigative. I think that's what you need to be for someone that is in your role.
Well, for Ohio, I follow, a lot of Ohio State Racing Commission rules, follow USTA rules. You got to know them by the book and go from there. So you pretty much know every single rule. And for me at Scioto, being the race secretary also, I get the hands-on with the horsemen and knowing everything that goes on there.
Now, we just talked with Mike Tanner, and we talked about what it takes to become a director and how they're elected. Now, you're a director in District 1 representing here in Ohio. What does it mean for your Ohio members for you to be here this weekend for them?
Well, we have our district meeting in January at the OHHA banquet, right? And we go through all the rules and discuss at length changes that could be made to the industry and the rules. And, as me personally, some of the things I disagree with, some of the things I agree with, and you take what the district members that show up to those meetings and bring it here. So it's very important to get involved and show up and, talk about the rules that are at hand.
And I think if one thing for our members that we love to convey here throughout the year, and of course this weekend, we want you involved, right? We want you to know what's going on, because it is our industry and they do have a say. Just knowing that they can get involved.
Absolutely. Some of the things, like I said, some of the things that were discussed in our district meeting, as far as maybe racing 2-year-olds, we made an amendment as a group, something that I probably don't agree with, but what I will bring to the full board and try to push for.
Now, when you sit on 4 committees, as I said there, and you're the vice chair of the parimutuel committee, so what does that mean exactly for what you'll be doing here this weekend, and how will that affect your members from coming out of this meeting?
Well, being vice chair, give it to Joe Frazier. He does most of the work, right?
Yeah, right.
So he does it all, and I kind of just get the title. But like I said, we will take our district, how they voted, back to the membership meeting here and try to pass what Ohio voted on, and some of it will go through, some of it will not.
Now, you took over the reins at Scioto Downs just over 5 years ago. Now, growing up at Scioto and, of course, in harness racing back there on the backside, what does it mean for you? And it's been an undertaking since taking over 5 years ago.
Yeah, we started with a track resurface in 2020, and then, moved right into the grandstand, and we're always every year trying to improve, trying to get better. Our handle went from $210,000 a day to over $600,000 now. We're always trying to improve our facility for our fans, our guests, and for our horsemen.
Well, it's funny you say that, because, with you being right in our backyard, you tore down a grandstand. We were there for that.
Yep.
And you put it right under the new grandstand you built. I always thought that was so cool that everyone was like, where's the old one go? It went right underneath the new one. And then, of course, the big announcement that you made a couple weeks there at the dam patch at the Breeders' Crown is coming back to Scioto in 2026.
Pretty exciting, this first time Scioto Downs will ever host every single division, and don't get me wrong, we have a lot of work to do between now and 2026, October of 2026, right?
You said, oh, it's real now, right?
Y-
The announcement's
yeah,
out.
we the contract signed, and so now we get to work, and not to push 2025 aside, but we will still we will have October 2026 circled on the calendar. We're already planning. We're already looking to make improvements to the facility, and we're very looking forward to that night.
Now, when we talk about the new investments into the facility, what presence do you think the Caesar brand? I think they're trying to make a statement for the industry to follow.
Yeah, since Caesars took over in 2020, we have, great company to work for, great, always trying to do better and putting the capital investment into the property for the horsemen, for the fans, and that's what they've done at Scioto, and they have Hoosier Park and Harris Philly, and they just built a new track in Columbus, Nebraska, and then we have the thoroughbred track in Horseshoe in Indianapolis. So they are definitely on board. They want to see racing succeed, and nothing but good things from Caesars Entertainment.
Now, as far as your role being in Ohio, growing up there, and being involved in so much racing, watching the investment put back into Ohio racing, and then, of course, bringing those Grand Circuit, continuing, you've had Grand Circuit races there, but now, of course, bringing more has got to be such a thrill for you.
Yeah, up until essentially VLTs got passed, right? Ohio was broke. I remember we were to the point where, are we going to close this facility down? And, once VLTs got passed and then Caesars took over, it's just been upswing since then. So,
Speaking of the upswing, you got another addition coming this year. You got a new paddock, right? Now, of course, Scioto always had the backside. They shut that down, I don't know, quite a few, probably 5-6 years ago. You guys you had a little bit of a shipping area, and then you had the paddock. But now you unveiled this new paddock. Tell us about the paddock, and what was the big decision there?
well, we struck a deal with another outside vendor to tear down our barns and build this 16 race 10 horse race paddock. It's been, we went from the design phase to all the way till now thinking horses first. What is best for the horsemen? Environmental contamination, what is best for the horses as far as, horses in these big paddocks getting nose to nose. That won't happen at Scioto. They won't get to electrical outlets, and we're just trying to make it the best we can.
Sounds like this paddock's going to be something to see. I think we're going to have a lot of entries coming this year at Scioto, right? You wouldn't mind that.
I'm very excited. It's not far away.
Yeah.
It's a little nerve-wracking how much work needs to be done yet. If anybody wants to come lay 188 stalls of stall mats, they're more than welcome to come help.
We're taking applications right to come help.
Monday morning, 7 a.m., we'll be laying stall mats, but I got a great crew to help me too, so everybody pitches in.
And as you said, it'll just be business as usual in just a few short months. Anything else? I know you got a lot to be excited about, but is there anything else we need to know that you're excited for 2025?
I am very excited. We're going to bring back the jug preview.
Oh.
It's the, it was at Scioto Downs for many, many years. We will bring it back in 2025. I think in years past, we always had divisions where it split and the purse kind of broke down. We will bring that back for $225,000, and Caesars Entertainment has allowed us, Eldorado Scioto Downs, to pay the entry fee to the winner of the Little Brown Jug.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah.
An incentive, of course, with the jug going for such a big purse as it has been the last couple years.
Yeah, for sure. It's exciting. I'm excited to see what that race does. 2025 is something to look forward to, and 2026 is something bigger.
Well, thank you so much, Jason, for stopping by and being with us. I know you probably want to get back to the reception here and catch up with all of the other directors as we get so nice to have everybody in town for the 2.5 days. As for me and the team, we'll be back with you tomorrow evening at a 4 p.m. post for us as we have more guests coming your way, highlighted by sitting down with President Russell Williams. Thank you from all of us here in Columbus. Good night.